I debunked this once before, but it was a while ago, and I have a lot more subs now. And I have gotten better at making videos, so I figured I should remake it with video editing included. So today, we are going to debunk the gender wage gap myth. If you followed politics during the election, you would have no doubt heard people like Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton make claims that women make 70 cents on the dollar to men, and that they want to end the wage gap between men and women. But is there a wage gap? And if there isn't a wage gap, why do people say there is? Well, the reason is quite simple. To determine the wage gap between men and women, a mathematical algorithm is used. To calculate the wage gap, you would divide the median earnings of women working full-time with that of men working full-time. So if you do this simple calculation, you will see that women do in fact make less than men. However, this calculation is missing some key aspects, which we will go into now. This calculation doesn't take into effect the choices of men and women. When the choices are examined and included into the calculation, the wage gap myth becomes a lie. Let me explain. The calculation doesn't take into account the education of men and women, the occupation, the position, the types of hours that are worked, sick time, overtime, maternity leave, etc., etc. Women tend to take time off during pregnancy and immediately after giving birth, which is completely natural. The mother should nurture their child. That's not to say that women aren't allowed to work during or after pregnancy. It just means that most women tend to stay home with their child during their early development. But the most important factor regarding the wage gap is the type of occupations between men and women. The American Association of the University of Women, which is a feminist organization, did a study that concluded that the wage gap shrinks to less than 6 cents when you take into account the different choices of men and women in terms of their careers and professions. Georgetown University compiled a list of the top 5 best paying majors and the top 5 worst paying majors, and the socio-demographics of those majors. So let's look at the demographics. The top 5 best paying majors are petroleum engineering, pharmaceutical science, mathematics and computer science, aerospace engineering, and chemical engineering. Out of the 5 best paying majors, women are only in the majority on one of them, pharmaceutical sciences, and only by a small fraction of 52%. If you look at the other professions, petroleum engineering is 87% male, mathematics is 67% male, aerospace engineering is 88% male, and chemical engineering is 72% male. Based on these demographics, we can see that the top 5 best paying majors, except pharmaceutical sciences, are dominated by men, and pharmaceutical science is essentially neck and neck between men and women. So the mythical wage gap is not due to sexism, but rather the choices between men and women. Now, let's look at the 5 lowest paying majors and compare the demographics. The 5 lowest paying majors are counseling and psychology, which is 74% female, early childhood education, which is 97% female, theology and religious vocations, which is 56% male, human services, 81% female, social work, 88% female. So as we can see here, for the top 5 lowest paying majors, women dominate all but one of them, theology and religious vocations, and men only dominate that group by 56%, which is almost split 50-50 between men and women. So in a nutshell, when you take the 5 best paying majors, 4 of them are dominated by men, and the 5th one is essentially neck and neck. When you take the 5 lowest paying majors, 4 of them are dominated by women, and the 5th one is essentially neck and neck. What this tells us is that when you take into account the different choices of men and women, you are able to justify why there appears to be a wage gap. What's more, as I stated earlier, women also take more time off than men, especially during pregnancy and after giving birth. This is completely natural. Men also have tendencies to work longer hours than females, picking up more shifts, using less vacation and sick time, and things of that nature. The truth of the matter is that there will always be a wage gap between men and women so long as women continue to major in lower paying professions. It's not due to inherent sexism in the workforce. It's not due to misogyny. It's due to personal choice. If you really want women to start making as much as men, then it is important to influence and guide them at a young age. Focus them on pursuing other majors of study. Help them lean toward mathematics, engineering, and so on and so forth. Now, I'm not saying that there isn't sexism in the industry. I'm sure there is. I'm sure some women are getting screwed over based on their sex. But to assume that there is a common wage gap between men and women of 77 cents on the dollar is a complete fallacy, with no statistical evidence to back it up. What's more, if there really was a wage gap for women, then you should see massive employment of women. If I was a CEO and I knew I could pay a woman 23% less than men, I would fill up my corporation with nothing but women, since this will increase my profits and help me expand my business. If there was indeed a wage gap of 23% less for women, and everyone knew this, and they still chose not to hire women, then the only thing that could be construed from that is that all of these employers are composed of inherent sexism. And that is the only reason why they are not hiring women, which, when you think about it, makes absolutely no sense. In conclusion, if you want to close the hyperbolic myth of the wage gap, then the best thing to do is to help women choose a different career path and focus on majors that pay more. They need to stop taking time off after labor. They need to start working as many hours as men and refrain from taking a lot of sick time. There will always be a wage gap as long as women and men make different choices in their careers. It's better to accept what really is rather than try to change what isn't. If you like what you see here, please consider subscribing and being a patron. The Piper Report is an alternative news source that discusses topics you won't hear from the corporate media. And a special thanks to my patron, Janice Phillips. And I'm done.